Coming up on Tech News today, FreedomPop starts a free voice calling cell phone service. YouTube wants to start their own music awards, but why? And Dropbox wants to eat all your photos. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Ring Central. We do everything in the cloud. That's why we love our cloud-based phone system by Ring Central. Zero startup costs, and Ring Central is $20 a month per user. Try it now with the 30-day risk-free trial. Buy one desk phone, get a second phone free up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. And by TechServe. TechServe assists U.S. businesses of all sizes with their technology needs, including Apple, Avid, Adobe, and HP solutions. Visit techserve.com/TNT and receive a complimentary iPad deployment assessment. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT10. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Ayaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we look at the tech news, we boil it down, we make a reduction sauce of tech news for you every day and put it in some context, starting with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feed. Facebook began rolling out graph search for posts to a subset of U.S. English users. Graph search launched in January with an index of people and photos, places, interests. It's a semantic search feature based on sentences, not keywords. The addition of posts means that now status updates, comments, photo captions, notes, and check-ins will be included in those search results.
Hotspot service provider FreedomPop is now offering a low-cost and free plan for cell phones, although for now its only phone model is a refurbished version of the 2-year-old WiMAX-based HTC Evo design. You may not want that, but hey, it's a start. Customers get 200 minutes, 500 texts, and 500 megabytes of data each month for free with unlimited texting and calling available for $10.99 per month. Says CEO Steven Skookles in an interview, that's how we're going to shake up Verizon and AT&T.
There's some trouble with Grand Theft Auto Online, particularly that online part. Apparently, Rockstar servers cannot handle the demand of GTA players. Some users are reporting they are locked out of the game. Last week, Rockstar warned this could happen as it expected huge demand. The company says it will keep gamers updated via Twitter and Facebook.
So longtime Verizon customers were happy and surprised this weekend when the company's webpage allowed them to upgrade their phone at a subsidized price while keeping their now obsolete and no longer offered unlimited data plan. Well, it turns out that was a software glitch. Verizon never intended to be so kind. The bug has been fixed, but those who took advantage of it will be allowed to keep their unlimited data plans and their new phones without any trouble from VZW.
Out of my cold, dead hands. You'll pry unlimited data. Old dead hands. Google's 3-year-long EU antitrust investigation into the company's search practices may be wrapping up soon, according to an official. The EU's investigation centers on claims that Google is blocking competitors like, for example, Microsoft, from search results. Joaquin Almunia, vice president of the European Commission, responsible for competition policy, said one of the most significant improvements suggested by Google involved vertical search, which was the issue that got a lot of criticism from complaints initially. Almunia has also expressed hope that a settlement will soon be reached. Hey, they want it. They all want it.
Delta is all in with Microsoft. The airline has a deal with Microsoft where its pilots will be equipped with Surface 2 tablets. The Surface 2 will replace that heavy flight bag carried by pilots, and the move is expected to reduce fuel consumption by 1.2 million gallons per year. In the recent past, Delta also issued Windows phones to its flight attendants to handle in-flight transactions.
The Zero Access botnet has taken a hit. Symantec says they have disrupted 500,000 of the estimated 1.9 million infected computers that are part of the botnet. Symantec started disrupting communication back in July between infected computers, removing them from the botnet. And Symantec has alerted ISPs about the machines so that owners can be informed that they were infected. Zero Access operates a click fraud scheme.
The U.S. government might be in shutdown mode, but it did decide to let Dell go private before everything went dark. Priorities. Dell announced that it has received all necessary regulatory clearance for Michael Dell, who founded and led the computer firm as CEO and chairman, and Silver Lake Partners to take the company private in a $24.9 billion transaction. The transaction is expected to close before the end of Q3 of 2014 or November 1st. Until then, the company does remain publicly traded, but after the deal is finalized, Michael Dell will own about 75%.
Google's gigabit fiber internet service is set to come to Austin, Texas sometime mid-2014. And in an probably entirely unrelated piece of news, AT&T just announced it's increasing its speed in Austin to 300 megabits per second for tens of thousands of customers by December, and gigabit service will arrive in mid-2014. In fact, if you sign up for the current service, you can get a free upgrade to GigaPower when it arrives. That's what they're calling the gigabit service. You can even vote on the website. AT&T's website lets you vote for which neighborhoods AT&T will bring the service to first. AT&T came up with this idea totally on their own.
BitTorrent just introduced BitTorrent Chat Alpha, an instant messaging chat client. The chat client uses decentralized technology. BitTorrent says it's similar to BitTorrent Sync, but adapted for real-time communications. Right now, BitTorrent Chat is in private alpha, so you'll have to sign up to be invited.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Ring Central. We do everything in the cloud these days, folks. I mean, even if you're like one of those cloud skeptics, there's still a bunch of stuff that you're using over the internet, and that's why we love cloud-based phone system by Ring Central. No startup costs, zero startup costs. $20 a month per user. That's how you pay per user. You can try it right now. 30-day risk-free trial. Ring Central allows you to easily customize all of your call handling. We can get our voicemail in our email. We can send and receive faxes. There's still people who want faxes, and it can be annoying if you're not living in that fax world anymore. But what if you can send them straight from your email, from your PC, from your smartphone, from your tablet? You can do that with Ring Central. New faxes arrive in your email inbox, so you can always stay on top of your business, and you can preview and print faxes, make up cover sheets, even sign faxes electronically right from your computer. It's the signing that always gets me. This makes it easy. You never have to use one of those bulky fax machines again. All-inclusive pricing for Ring Central starts at $20 a month per user, and you can start it right now with a 30-day risk-free trial. And they have a special offer for our listeners. When you buy one desk phone, you get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. So call this number, designated for our listeners, 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. Again, 800-543-9980. Or you can go to ringcentral.com and use promo code TWIT. That's ringcentral.com. Promo code TWIT. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss the stories of the day, a man many of you who watched This Week in Tech realize is one of the hidden members of Buzz Out Loud, but also host of the NSFW show right here on TWIT, Weird Things, and FSL Tonight. Justin Robert Young, how are you?
Hello. Great to be here.
I see you're wearing a Pirates hat in pride today.
I am. For the first time in my adult life, the Pittsburgh Pirates will today play a playoff game, and I'm excited. I can't say that I really know how to contain my emotions, so I decided to wear a Pirates hat on the show.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some sort of BitTorrent meta commentary.
No.
Something like that. Best of luck against the Cincinnati Redlegs to your team.
Indeed. It's basically Kentucky, and they're noted communists.
Let's start off talking about freedom. Speaking of communism, let's talk about FreedomPop launching its new smartphone VoIP service. They're actually not the first company to do this. There was a text company that launched this summer with a VoIP-only service, but their service is $19 a month. FreedomPop now has a free cell phone service that is VoIP-only. Right now, they only have one phone that you can use with it, and it's a WiMAX phone, the HTC Evo WiMAX to be specific. It's only $99 though. That's why they did it. They wanted to keep that price down. It's unsubsidized. You buy the phone, you get to keep it. And for free, You get 200 minutes of voice calling. Now, that happens over the data network. They're not operating a cell voice network. They're operating a VoIP service, and they'll just remap the Evo's phone app to go to their VoIP service. You also, for free, get 500 text messages, 500 megabytes of data. If you want more than that, it's still cheaper than most other comparable plans. Unlimited texting and calling are available for $10.99 a month. And then you still have to pay extra for the data. And you can go in tiers between that. You don't have to go straight to unlimited. You can pay for more than 500 megabytes or pay for a few more minutes. They say they've got more phones coming. They're going to work on Sprint's LTE network. And they're even hoping to allow Sprint customers to bring their own devices over to FreedomPop. A lot of folks looking at this today saying this is a threat. This is disruptive. This is an extremely cheap plan. Justin, that all makes sense. Yes, this is an amazing plan if I can use the phone I want. Forget, let's say right now they can only use the Evo. But even if they start bringing some older phones over to Sprint's network, do you think this is really a threat?
No, I don't. I think that if you look at the mobile phone space right now, so it's so OS and hardware driven. This has Android on it, but I can't see if they are not going to have what is attractive to the people. I mean, because it seems like they're trying to split the atom on this one. They want to have a super cheap service that people can be a part of and not experience some of the restrictions that you have now on the larger carriers, but also be a youth attractive kind of platform. And I don't know whether or not they're going to be able to be serving both markets right now. Now, as a platform, it's interesting. Going forward, whether or not they can build on these building blocks, I think could be something disruptive. But as we see it now, no, you're not going to put a massive dent in what is the oligarchy of mobile carriers.
Although, if you're a family and you've got, a teenager, or I don't know, whenever kids get cell phones these days, and as a parent, you're like, we cannot justify this kind of money. If you're saying something like, listen, you stay within the minimum and we really don't have to pay anything, and then the kid's happy because the kid can, text 500 times within a month. I mean, that's more than I text, and I text kind of a lot, I feel like. Although, I don't know, I'm probably underestimating how much anyone under the age of 18 is texting. But that's pretty attractive because there's not really that much of an investment that needs to be made. And hey, $11 a month just for unlimited texting and calling for people who still like to make phone calls seems pretty good for a first timer. I think that's probably where FreedomPop has some leverage here. Is you get people who are just used to the terms and the deals that FreedomPop offers, and then as the service grows in the future, assuming that it does, you've got some loyal customers.
It's definitely a smart step for FreedomPop. They first started off with hotspots, and that's kind of a niche thing. Like if we're just going to buy this one device and have that forever. And then you have this, what appears to be now an antiquated phone, but the thing is it's dirt cheap at $99. It means that FreedomPop didn't go out of its way to sign some major phone and then take losses over years. This actually seems like a smart business plan. Over time, maybe like Republic Wireless, they just got the Moto X coming out in November. Yeah. That was kind of a surprise that such a MVNO would get a high profile
phone, yeah.
Exactly. So the idea that FreedomPop is doing this slowly, I think, is pretty interesting. And as Sarah's mentioning, this does seem really good for like that second phone line, third phone line kind of thing, because it does have a lot of functionality that will work on Wi-Fi anyway. So if you're going to be using things like Line or WhatsApp or using any of these other things, you're not worried about text or minutes. You're just going to be on Wi-Fi at home. So there's a lot of things about this I think is smart long-term. Whether they're going to survive in the long term is a whole other question.
Well, and how much is 500 megabytes for somebody who uses their phone all the time? I mean, if it's free up to that cap, but I would suspect that people use a lot more data than 500 megabytes, especially if that's your primary computing device, which it is for people under 18.
But it requires the WiMAX network, so you're never going to actually use the network. So don't worry about it, Jory.
True.
True.
Well, don't forget too that this is for people on a budget. I think a lot of teens are not going to want to carry this phone around. They'll be embarrassed to carry this phone around. It's like, getting the jeans at the Dollar General store, right? They're going to have to do it, but they're not going to be happy about it.
But wouldn't you rather have a set of wheels than no wheels at all?
Something depends on what those wheels are.
Man, can we get more teenage metaphors? We already have jeans, cars. What else
What else
can
do
we?
kids do these days?
I think I think this is right now is for people who don't use their phone as their primary computer is what I'm saying. I think this is for people who want to have a phone but can't afford it or feel like they can't afford it or don't like affording it and say, you know what, I just need to make some calls every once in a while. Got a Wi-Fi network at home maybe. This is perfect for them. I think we'll need to see better phones. So that relies on two things, them being able to get those phones to work on this system and being able to get phones to come to the Sprint network, right? I mean, theoretically, you could use an iPhone with this service because there is an iPhone for Sprint. You can't remap the phone app to the FreedomPop, so that's going to be a problem for them. And them and Text Now is the company that's also doing VoIP for their cell phone service. I think that is separately interesting. That companies are saying, you know what, we're just not even going to use cellular connections for voice. We're gonna do this entirely over VoIP. Problematic on 3G. You really need LTE or WiMAX to make it work reliably. So that's going to be a problem. These guys, folks are going to travel with this phone outside of the coverage area, and all of a sudden they're going to lose their, they're going to have drop calls all over the place. Let's talk Lady Gaga. Why?
Finally.
Because YouTube is having music awards. And guess who's going to start talking Lady Gaga? Ayaz Akhtar.
Of course I would. I thought she was going to be a flash in the pan, and I am completely wrong about that. She's still a major star. YouTube's going to launch its own music award show. Nominations will be live streamed on October 17th. The event itself will be on November 3rd, also live streamed. Nominations are based on videos that have been watched and shared over the past year. And in the days leading up to the event, nominees will share official music videos, covers, parodies, concerts, interviews, all kinds of content on YouTube. The shows are going to take place in Seoul, Moscow, London, and Rio de Janeiro. Can't say that very well. The actual event is in New York City. Talent involved. Lots of people, including Lady Gaga, Arcade Fire, Eminem, are going to perform on the November 3rd award show. It's hosted by Jason Schwartzman. The creative director is Spike Jonze, who directed Where the Wild Things Are and lots of other things. Jerry, we try to make sense of the news on this show. Does this make any sense for YouTube to have its own music award show?
Absolutely. I think they've experimented a lot with live events and in covering stuff like this. You can see obvious parallels between YouTube as it is now and where MTV was in 1984 when they launched the Video Music Awards. The Video Music Awards now, as a performance spectacle, is looked at as an equal, if not a superior to the Grammys, which has the longer history. There's no reason why YouTube can't do the same thing. It really depends on the talent they put into making it a spectacle. But what I would say is that you are going to see very, very quickly whether or not YouTube as an entity wants to make this the spectacle that MTV wanted to make the Video Music Awards, which has outlasted them showing music videos. That platform has. Remember, the first MTV Video Music Awards had the Madonna in a wedding dress performance, which we still talk about to this day. So I would say the time is now for YouTube. Be a vibrant, fun, exciting, dangerous show if they want to. My skepticism is I don't know whether or not the talent that we have listed to get people in the door, like Lady Gaga, Eminem, and Arcade Fire, are those acts. I think the acts that really could be the live wire dangerous sort of event-driven videos that we talk about that would make this a household name are the other people on YouTube that are, they're huge with their audiences, but this could give them a pathway to a larger crowd.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than Lady Gaga, Eminem, and, Arcade Fire I really like. In certain circles, definitely. But think about it. Okay, so Justin, you mentioned the latest VMAs. You got Miley Cyrus. There's all sorts of little choice moments in the show, and someone like me who just never saw it is like, oh, I want to find some clips online. Of course, they're all on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So as a company, of course, it makes sense for YouTube to say, why don't we just control this entire thing? We're not going to become a place where a bunch of people have their phones trained on the TVs so you can watch some clip that everybody's talking about that ends up on YouTube. The whole thing originates on YouTube in the first place. We can sell ads. It works. It works so well. Plus, YouTube is the place that a lot of people only watch videos now anyway. So it's a great idea.
Lindsey Sterling, the popular YouTube violinist, is going to be part of this. I don't know how to say this group's name. CDZA, CDZA. They are going to be part of it. They do comedic covers and medleys. Vice and Sunset Lane Entertainment, who you might know or may not, produces the Video Music Awards for MTV. is going to be producing this. So
Yeah.
Justin, it sounds like they're addressing all of those things you're talking about. Like they're going to bring in the YouTube folks, they're going to bring in the big names, they're going to have top quality production, and fans from around the world will be choosing the winners. So they're engaging the audience here in a way. I think this could be, and I should disclose, my wife works for YouTube, so you take my opinion with a grain of salt, right? But I think this could be the thing that really starts to threaten established television models if this takes off. Like, hey, you don't have to, well, I need a cable channel because I really like award shows and I want to watch the VMAs. All of a sudden, this becomes the kind of thing like, actually, you don't need a television subscription at all to see.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that is a step in that direction. I don't know whether this...
I'm not trying to say it's the one thing that changes everything, but it is a step, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it could be this for YouTube. And YouTube is in a very unique position in terms of internet culture and culture at large. What I would say for because I think that this is very much in a position where the VMAs was. You need people that are going to do the thing. And even, Sarah, to your point, yeah, Lady Gaga, Eminem, and Arcade Fire are huge names. Are they the Lady Gaga that wanted to wear a meat dress? You know, I think we're a couple of years, even for her, somebody who is an avant-garde artist who wants to make a splash, I think she's even a couple of years past that. Eminem is long past that. Arcade Fire really never was that act. They're a great band. They're going to perform really, really well. But are they the thing you have to see? I think YouTube's in a position to do it, and I hope that they have that reckless spirit that the VMAs had in the early 80s.
That's the weird thing about YouTube and Google. They're trying to position YouTube as a more mature place where you can have pay-per-view content, pay channels, all these different things. So they're trying to appeal to the older markets, the older content producers. At the same time, they want to keep an edge at this and do that. It seems like it's a hard line to cross, because if they're going to have all of these artists and the YouTube artists at the same time, is that going to make any sense for people? Will it appeal to no one because there's just such an odd variety of people?
And it makes perfect sense to YouTube viewers, because you know what the most popular channel on YouTube is? It's Vivo, with all of these artists and their videos. YouTube is the new music television.
It is. No, it makes so much sense. It really is. I think it's going to be good. I just hope that it can ride that line between, you don't want it to be a complete anarchy poop show like the Streamies were a couple years ago, where people were like cursing on stage and it was like embarrassing for people that showed up there. You want it to be classier than that, but more unbuttoned than probably even the VMAs at this point, which are very much a record company showcase, more so than it was in its inception.
All right, let's talk about Dropbox, because they are quietly eating all your photos.
Yeah. Dropbox actually announced two new additions to its service. The first is on the Mac app, which is something that I use on a daily basis. Dropbox will let you, anytime you take a screenshot, and this is really, I think, for a certain kind of a power user who ends up taking lots of screenshots of something that they find on the internet or photos of that sort of thing, automatically detect when something like that is taken, upload, and then ready a shared link of those screenshots, anything that you shoot on your computer. So it's pretty much Dropbox saying it's not just about files, and now it's not just about photos, it's also just about images. And that can encompass things other than the traditional, hey, I took some photos at my family picnic. But also Dropbox has launched an importer that will allow you to upload your entire iPhoto library. If you're an iPhoto user, you might have been using iPhoto a lot longer than Dropbox has even been a company. I mean, I've got iPhotos that go back, many, many years, right? So that's kind of interesting. It'll organize them by event. So Dropbox is intelligently ingesting them all kind of in one fell swoop. And it'll reach into your photo past and copy over everything that you've shot since you started using iPhoto, as long as the information is there. So I started thinking about this. It's like, well, Dropbox does so well as a one-stop shop for lots of files. I eventually got to the point where I ran out of space, and now I have to become a premium user in order to use Dropbox effectively for myself. So for those people who can still kind of skate under the pay radar, if you want to start using this as a place to access all of your photos, this is sort of your one-stop shop. I think Dropbox is going to make a lot of money off of potential customers this way. but also it's done so well as kind of a platform agnostic solution. Do we think this is a better idea than relying on something like Google's Google Plus photo organization option or iCloud for Apple? Justin, what do you think?
I'm extraordinarily bullish on Dropbox. I think that every move that they have made has have been, like you said, to be a platform agnostic. Don't think about it, just upload it solution. They have been very consumer focused. Every acquisition or development that they've made and made a point to talk about and announce has always been, this is how you use what we do easier. And I'm very curious to see what they do with like the Mailbox app that they acquired. This is yet another step to don't think about it. It can just live here. And now you don't have to worry about, where Apple's next iteration of that software is going to be, whether or not Google's going to force you to do everything through Google Plus tomorrow, whether they're going to cancel photo uploading for whatever reason. This is all we do. Trust us with your information.
And one of the reasons I continue to trust them, even though I probably shouldn't, because of the way they handle encryption, and that's a whole separate conversation, is because they make it so easy to just keep using them. It's not why I trust them. It's why I keep using them. Whenever they implement this stuff, it's always so well done. It's like, hey, we noticed you have photos. We're going to ask you first, do you want us to take them? And if so, just press this button, and then we'll do it from then on, and you won't have to think about it. It's so frictionless.
I'll throw in some conspiracy theory stuff here, because
good.
Dropbox was an acquisition target of Apple a long time ago.
Yep.
Steve Jobs says that's just a feature. Your company's not going to go anywhere. Just come into OS 10. We'll do that. And now all of a sudden, Dropbox has an iPhoto, something that's going after iPhoto's libraries, not just like Picasa or any other photo library kind of software. It's iPhoto. I think there's a little bit of being burned by Dropbox and the OS 10 situation that happened a long time ago. But Dropbox doesn't make it. That's conspiracy theory over already. But Dropbox, you're right. It's really easy. It's ridiculously simple. I've been looking for something like this for years. And they add this. They always make it a little easier for you to keep adding stuff because they'll give you free storage for a limited time. And eventually that's going to turn into a pay customer because you're not going to say, oh, well, my 50 gigabytes were free for 2 years. I'm going to unload everything. Like I know when I set up a new computer, one of the first things I do is install Dropbox because everything's already there. Every machine becomes my machine. Makes it way simple. So they have another really good long-term strategy. Well,
in a world where Google gives away so much space for so many things and could always, flip a switch and give away more space for, more things to more people, you have to forever justify for Dropbox. They have to forever justify why they are worth paying for. Ease of use is a huge part of that. And like Sarah said, the more you put in there, the more you are already locked into that place. And now it becomes an easier justification to spend that couple bucks a month.
Well, sure. And I think, I mentioned Apple. It's like, well, if you're using iCloud and you want to, get an Android phone and have a variety of devices, well, that doesn't work. So that solution is iCloud is only for, the very walled garden advocates. And then you've got Google, which, as you mentioned, Justin, Google will let you do all of this. It's got all sorts of storage that's willing to give, but it's at a price too. I mean, everybody knows that Google also wants to take as much of your data as possible to be able to serve up relevant ads to you. At least at this point, Dropbox is coasting nicely between the two, where it's like, I'm not either of those companies. We're just Dropbox, and we're awesome.
One final Dropbox thought for me. And this is kind of really local to the Bay Area. There is a billboard from the newly rebranded You Send It, which is Hightail, that just says, going into the Bay Bridge, it says, your files should neither be dropped nor boxed. And then it says Hightail, and then in even smaller letters, formerly You Send It, which shows you what kind of player Dropbox is. That this, and it is a horrid advertisement because it just puts Dropbox in gigantic letters on this free billboard as it is the most recognizable name in third-party ways to upload files. I think that they have a great mind share, and this is the reason why.
That is so funny. That Bay Bridge gets used for taunting people. The Oakland A's used to put up like now leaving 4 world championships. You went into San Francisco.
Yeah.
Now it's 4-2, but still. Let's take a quick break. Thank our other sponsor for today's show, TechServe, New York's premier authorized Apple reseller and technology provider, serving creative professionals at all levels. And you don't have to be in New York. They're on the internet, so they're right next door to you. They help anybody, individual customers, Fortune 100 companies. They carry a full range of Apple products from iPhones and iPads to iMacs, MacBooks, iPods, and accessories. They also have a range of partnerships with top vendors to facilitate flexible, efficient, and creative solutions for anything you need in your business. They assist businesses of all sizes deploying things like Apple solutions, Avid, Adobe, all over the United States. Whether you're already committed to iPads or just getting started, from sales to support, process to practice, TechServe can help. You've probably heard us talk about the Delta terminals in LaGuardia, Toronto, Minneapolis. Every seat in the terminal has an iPad. Travelers can sit there, check up on their flights, but also even order food, play some games, browse the web, check their email. 1.5 million visitors use these iPads in Delta terminals. That's a lot of people. And the result has been double-digit increase in food and beverage revenue and the highest customer satisfaction scores in all participating airports. If you would like that to be applied to your company, OTG Management, the hospitality company, might tell you, you know what, check out TechServe. They're the folks that helped us do this in the Delta terminals. TechServe is the natural place to turn. They sell, support, personalize, configure, and manage massive iPad projects from the Delta terminals to a school with 700 chef instructors, an operation that delivered personally configured iPads to 3,000 cable technicians. TechServe is available to do full lifecycle management. They help you get the devices, get them up and running, teaching your staff how to use them, and maintaining them. They don't abandon you after the setup. If your business is considering integrating iOS technology at your workplace, contact TechServe today. Receive a complimentary iPad deployment assessment. Visit techserve.com/TNT, and TechServe will help you assess your current or future iPad needs and give you some advice to make it a success. That's techserve.com/TNT, and we thank TechServe for their support of Tech News Today. Speaking of Delta giving 11,000 pilots Surface 2s. Those are the new Surface tablets from Microsoft that have Windows RT. This will replace that big heavy bag they use for charts and navigation. You may have heard of airlines using iPads for this. Well, they're going to use Surface 2s on Delta. They will run an app called from Flight Deck Pro. That's from a Boeing-owned company called Jeppesen. So they'll be running Flight Deck Pro for all their charts and stuff. They like it because in Windows 8.1, you get a true side-by-side feature on that tiled interface. Now, in the previous Windows RT, you had the little tiny thing on the side and then the three-quarter view. But you can go full-on side-by-side with Windows 8.1, which will come on Surface RT. It'll be added to Boeing 757 and 767 fleets later this year, all the cockpits by the end of 2014. They think it'll save them about 1.2 million gallons of fuel per year. And Delta already gave Windows phones to their flight attendants back in August, 19,000 Lumia 820s. Now, combine that with this news from Cantor World Panel that Windows Phone is averaging 9.2% market share across the biggest countries in Europe, UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And in fact, in Germany, they are about to catch iOS. iOS has fallen to 9.5% of the German market. Windows Phone has 8.8%. It's about time Microsoft got some good news. Justin, how good is this news, though?
Well, I mean, as far as a contract with Delta, it's okay. I mean, they've always done well in enterprise stuff. This seems like a smart place where they can continue to find new deals for the products that they have now. But in terms of the usage in Europe, I'll tell you what, I really enjoy where Windows where their mobile OS is going. It seems like they have a little bit more of a cohesive message, obviously, than where the Android platform is. And specifically with like the Lumia advertisements, I feel like they're in a position where they are talking about what is good and in a relevant way with their phones, like the mobiles, like the zoom thing on the 41 megapixel camera. I feel like if that were in the hands of Samsung, we would see commercials where people would be, blowing up their pictures to the size of buildings or whatever, as opposed to focusing on a very consumer, comprehensible idea of zooming into a photo from somewhere in the back of the room. It seems like we are looking at a rosier picture for the Windows Mobile OS than we were a year or 2 years ago.
Well, I just wonder if it's going to have any halo effect. So the idea is the pilots try out the Surface RTs, or the Surface 2s, excuse me, and they are going to enjoy them to the point where they buy them as their primary machines in their real lives. I just don't know if people, and the flight attendants as well, if they have all these Windows Phone devices, they get used to them. I just don't know if that's going to have the effect of something like an iPod had with Mac sales or iPods had with any Apple product in general. But if it comes to Microsoft, is it going to be like the BlackBerry system where it's like, oh, I have this for work. I really don't like it, but I have this for work. Is it going to be enough? And I think 8.1, that revision, has a lot more friendly options. Instead of having to go into that desktop to do things, there's a lot more power in there in the actual Windows 8 interface with all the tiles. So that's changed enough. And with the upcoming ideas that Windows is going to consolidate all the stores, have one store for all things, including Windows Phone apps and Windows RT apps and Windows 8.1 apps, if they're all in the same place, that could have a long-term effect. I just don't think it's going to have a huge boost just yet.
Let's move on to Etsy. Now, you folks may or may not be a user of Etsy, but I'm sure you've heard about it. It's a place that folks can sell their crafty things, and people use it for all kinds of stuff and to be able to sell. But there have been some restrictions, Sarah, and they're changing their policy. What's going on here?
Exactly. In fact, Etsy has always been kind of synonymous with the idea of craft wares, handmade things, but it does really, really big business. Etsy currently has about 18 million items for sale, 18 million, seeing 60 million unique visitors each month. And things are changing behind the scenes at Etsy. It really did start out as a place where you, as an independent, crafty person who is very talented, could sell a painting or something that you knitted or something that you put together, pieces of furniture. There is still that sort of stuff. But terms and conditions, the legal language, allowed sellers previously to use something called partial production assistance that many sellers felt kind of meant you can't really have some sort of a production facility without bending the rules. There's a whole debate with Etsy sellers between what's a seller and somebody that's just a reseller who isn't really doing anything but passing along someone else's goods and services and then upmarking them. So what is Etsy all about? All right, so the new terms and conditions say that sellers can now hire any amount of staff to churn out product. They can have somebody else ship their goods. Previously, a seller actually had to basically be at the post office or the FedEx office themselves to ship. They can apply to sell items they produce with manufacturing partners, and they can hire staff in other locations besides their own. The guidelines have further been tweaked to require that products sold to have authorship with the seller, meaning the seller still kind of has to prove to Etsy, and this is going to be a case-by-case basis, listen, this is my idea, this was my design, this is something I can't manufacture out of my own living room, but it did come from me. I'm not just some sort of a reseller who's ripping off other people's copyrights. So the handmade item is supposed to begin with your idea and your vision, but the item no longer has to be assembled by you or really a team that you ever come in physical contact with. A lot of sellers are really upset about this, saying this is just Etsy kind of sticking it to the people that have made the service so successful in the first place. But I wonder if Etsy really has a choice. You have a company like Amazon that's sort of the gold standard in just buying things online that might be cool. You have a company like Fab that's moving into sort of a global Amazon competitor. Then you've got Etsy that's saying, well, we're not just about handmade items because you can't really scale. Justin, who do you side with in this case?
It was the only move for Etsy. I mean, Etsy as a platform wants as much business going through it as possible. Now, Etsy as a culture will have to deal with whether or not these are handmade goods. But for a growth economy, you need to allow these kind of elements into your user agreement if you want the pie to get bigger. It's just, it needed to happen for it as a platform to kind of survive. Now, if they want to, if there is a subsection or another site now that culturally is made available because people only want the hand-knit sock iPhone case that comes off the hands of the person who listed this on the site, then
you mean artisan, by the way?
Yes, an artisan Etsy. Then maybe, but Etsy, by way of its growth and the fact that people want to make a living off this, needs to just give the people that want to make it a platform room to grow.
I think you're right. I think it would be smart of Etsy to say we're not going to have two programs. One is the the artisan, I might as well use that, artisan, bespoke, small batch Etsy, and then, the mid-range Michaels level Etsy, and pitch it that way, because this always happens. Remember, this was a big deal when eBay started letting in the bigger sellers, but they have to do it if they want to be able to continue to grow their company. Or maybe somebody will come along and say, you know what, I want a sustainable company. I don't care about growing it. I doubt that's going to happen, though. Shall we talk?
I definitely understand. I understand how if you've been a happy, loyal seller and Etsy's been a great marketplace for you, that you would say, well, I'm just going to get crushed. Somebody else can just pretty much pull the same types of ideas, have a bigger store, offer more things, and then my work is for naught. But like you mentioned, Tom, I think anybody who, as a customer, you do sort of see the difference between, oh, this is an artisan shop. Oh, this person's got a really interesting story in their bio, and look at their ratings. That's also part of the whole experience too. Is if it's a crappy kind of junky Etsy account, the infrastructure is supposed to weed out those people eventually. Sellers say that that's not always the case, and that's not always happening. And there's just a lot of junk from people who really don't own any of those designs. But it seems like there's room for both.
All right, let's talk about Huawei. They've got an interesting idea to keep things innovative, and it involves change at the top.
Yeah, so now a while ago, Huawei announced that they're going to have an experimental management strategy. And here's how this works. Their CEOs cycle in every 6 months. So there's a new CEO, Eric Zhu. He's going to be the CEO from October 1st to March 31st. 3 executives are taking turns acting as CEO. Zhu has worked at Huawei for 10 years, and he's the 3rd acting CEO. He takes over for Guo Ping and Ken Hughes, the other CEO, who are just swapping in and out of these 6-month turns. The executives have different expertise areas, marketing, wireless, research and development. Their normal duties don't change when they're CEOs, and they retain a lot of power even when they're not CEOs. Jerry, what do you think of this strategy? And can you think of any other tech companies that could think, hey, you know what? Cycling might be the way to go.
BlackBerry.
I think that's called shuffling the deck chairs, Tom.
In BlackBerry's case, you're right.
I was all ready to say that this is a dumb idea, and that it is treating a symptom, which is stagnant leadership, as opposed to just finding the right leader. But then I thought about the Google book, In the Plex, that talked about when they came to China, part of what they found culturally was that Google wanted to bring their very googly diffuse power structure where everybody can, step up and make a change regardless of where they are in the company. But China, business-wise, had such an entrenched power structure that they found that people just wanted to have their desk near the person who had the title, as opposed to, fostering an independent thought. So maybe this is the way that in Chinese business culture, they can bring a more nimble kind of idea, that the idea that there is no one CEO, that everybody will have a different, at least of these 3 guys. So that there is just more of a diffuse power structure there than there would be otherwise. In that case, then yeah, it seems like a novel idea of a way to get around what would otherwise be a flaw in the way the business is done in China.
I think if Huawei was struggling, I would tend to want to go where you started to go there, Justin, and say like, this is, moving around the deck chairs, but Huawei is booming. Huawei is, moving forward. So this doesn't seem necessary, like, oh, we got to come up with something. It seems like them saying, and maybe your read is the right one, culturally, this will help us break out of a few bad habits and help us gain steam and do things even better. I'm curious if it works there. And even if it does work there, would it work elsewhere? I don't think it's the kind of solution that would work in every company.
Well, you mentioned BlackBerry, Tom. I don't know if it was a joke, but I mean, they did have 2 heads for a while, right? And that didn't work. But they were both the heads at the same time, and they were swapping in and out. We've read a lot of stories about where RIM was going to go. The idea, I think, was Jim Lazaridis wanted to have a lot of the services go ahead as its own entity. A lot of other things that would have been different should they actually be able to have complete control over 6 months. I'd imagine that because there's a 3-person team, you'd have this idea where you couldn't do anything to not necessarily outshine anybody, but you don't want to keep undoing somebody else's work. So you're all working towards the same goal, as opposed to being like politicking to get to the top, perhaps a 3-person unit might be the way to go if you have stagnation like Microsoft seems to have.
Hey, it worked for the Roman Empire for a long time.
Well, I mean, listen, there's a very thin line between everybody working together in a Mexican standoff, right? I mean, it's great if they can figure out a way to work cooperatively, that you don't want to do something that you are sure the person who is next up is going to undo. But it's not great if egos start clashing and now all of a sudden you have deadlock.
All right. I think we've figured that out for Huawei. Hope they take our advice. Let's move on to the randomizer. Straw poll today for our live audience had 4 options because I found a lot of stuff I liked today. Number 4, 20% of the vote. Google launches Android game vending machines. Put first ones in Tokyo. So you go up to the vending machine and then you tap it with your phone and it gives you it's silly. 24%. An AI plate that does a floating touchscreen. This is coming out of SeaTac. So you actually like have the touchscreen floating in front of you. You just touch the air. Number 2 with 24% of the vote, also tied, I guess. An asteroid has been named after Randall Munro, the guy behind XKCD comic. Yay, congratulations, Randall Munro. That's awesome. And number 1 with 32% of the vote, glasses that translate text unveiled at SeaTac. Now, this reminded me immediately of that iOS app that came out a few years back called Word Lens, where you would hold up your phone and it would do this kind of 50-50 job of translating text that you saw from one language into another. NTT Docomo says they've got intelligent glasses that allow the wearer to view and manipulate virtual images and translate things like street signs on the go. They look really dorky right now, but if they made these things, you know, look a little more on the Google Glass end and less like you're wearing a machine, would you go around tourist areas wearing these, Sarah? What do you think?
No. I don't like any of this stuff. I don't want a floating touchscreen interface, especially as a tourist.
But then you have to talk to people.
No, I don't.
It's just you just need to know how to order wine in different languages and you're fine.
I mean, outside of this show and a couple others, I don't really talk to anybody ever, and it's fine.
Okay, but if you're trying to
all the words that are spoken by Sarah Lane are recorded and cataloged here on
as
Twitter.
the host of the Social Hour, no less.
Yes,
I don't talk to anybody.
They're just
you know, you keep it online. It's
you're in Korea. You're looking at the sign. You can't figure out what the sign says. You pop these glasses on and it turns it into English. No.
Nah, I mean, sure. There are definitely moments where you're like, that is very cool. However, I think I'd probably be also fine with a little app that I can point at a sign every so often so I don't have to put anything on my face. Maybe I just sound like a curmudgeon who hates change, but I just want to be honest.
That way, that makes more sense.
I'm actually with Sarah on this one. I think that it's an interesting idea. Having worn Google Glass for the past 2.5 months now, I am really down on the idea of wearing things on my head.
I don't think this is going far enough. I think we should just go full-on Iron Man helmet where it could have microphones that could translate and you hear the translations and then you can see the translations. This idea that got to put glasses on and these earbuds. No, just put a freaking helmet on.
Well, no, I think we can go farther than that. Let's just get the TARDIS technology where we just land one piece of hardware in the middle of town and everybody speaks with British accents.
I'm way in favor of that. We would all sound so much more sophisticated. Well, it depends on which accent.
Well, when everybody
you have like a London, Oxford
when everybody's got the accent, nobody's
somewhere.
sophisticated, right? That's the thing.
Tom, lots of places have a north.
So true. Let's take a quick break. Thank our other sponsor for today's show, Squarespace.com, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. They are always improving. If you haven't checked out Squarespace in a while, you got to check it out. It's changed, baby, for the better. Beautiful designs, as they have always had, but they've got 20 new beautiful ones that you can use to create your website or spruce it up. They've won numerous awards for those things. Easy to use. If you want some help, Squarespace has an amazing support team that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And their customer support team has also won industry awards. They got a Gold Stevie Award recently for outstanding service. But it's all drag and drop. It's not going to be that hard to figure out what you want to do anyway. And it starts just $8 a month, including a free domain name if you sign up for a year. even their code is beautiful. I mean, we all know Squarespace looks beautiful on the outside, but what is also amazing is what happens on the inside. All that code. Squarespace takes just as much pride in their back-end code as they do in their front end. Go take a look. Check it out. You can start a trial with no credit card required. Start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code TNT10 to get 10% off and to show your support for Tech News Today. We thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. What's on the calendar, Sarah?
Well, today you may have heard some whispers here and there about government shutdown, but that's not going to stop Glenn Greenwald from hosting a Reddit AMA, aka Ask Me Anything, today. He's going to answer questions about the NSA.
Right. Of course, because the government can't stop them. They don't have any money.
Exactly. Yeah. They just took down their own websites.
He's going to do it in his bathing suit because he ain't on the job.
All right. This is going to be awesome. Anyway, it'll be interesting either way. There is a new DevCon called The Perfect Trip that takes place in San Francisco tomorrow, October 2nd. It's all about kind of the business side of the travel industry, online travel industry. And finally, the Xi3's Piston modular PC is launching on November 29th for $1,000.
Ooh, wow. That seems pricey when you say it that way. But
$999.
How about I say this? The Xi3's Piston modular PC is launching November 29th for just $1,000.
Wow, what a bargain when you say it that way. All right, let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
It's a message from Callum in Scotland. He says he thought he wanted to lend his thoughts regarding BlackBerry. He says he knows it's a little late, but it seemed a little obvious. Why did Lenovo not go after BlackBerry? They've been talking about trying to get into the American handset market for a long time, but have had the problem of not being an American company. Also, they would clearly be going after the enterprise market, exactly the market BlackBerry dominated not too long ago. Would that purchase not have been the perfect stepping stone for Lenovo hopping into the American handset market? Just a thought.
Well, they would have had to get approval for that. And a Chinese company to get approval to buy a Canadian company, especially one that is used by so many government and security personnel, would have faced challenges. They pretty much said, Huawei, you're not allowed to bid. So beyond that, even if they were allowed to buy BlackBerry, I don't know if it solves their problem. Because their problem isn't that they don't have the ability to manufacture good hardware. Their problem is marketing. And BlackBerry is not going to solve a marketing problem for you if you buy them.
The other thing is BlackBerry can still be snapped up because we're thinking Fairfax could flip them, or there's 6 weeks still before another company can make another offer. So Lenovo's probably not even out of the game yet, assuming they wanted to be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. All right. Well, that is it for this episode of Tech News Today. Justin Robert Young, always a pleasure. Two episodes of Twit stuff in a week here. This Week in Tech and Tech News Today. And it's not going to stop there, is it?
No, I can't stop, and I won't stop. Tom, NSFW show tonight, and then, of course, keep your feeds live for FSL new content coming in the coming weeks.
Keep your eyes open and your feet on the ground and keep reaching for that podcast feed. That is it for us. Also, don't forget weirdthings.com. Justin does that too, and it's awesome. You can find us on our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. That's the place to let us know what stories you would like us to cover each and every day. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. That is a place where you can see all of the links to all of the things we do. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, and you can give us a call, leave us a voicemail. We love hearing from you, 260-TNT Show. We'll be back tomorrow with Veronica Belmont as our guest. See you then.
Praise the Jolly Roger.